Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David here again with Nick Musica. And our topic today is we're going to really be focusing on empaths. And I think it's something that, you know, even if you're not identifying yourself as an empath, if you're listening to this, you probably have some level of that. And so try this on. You know, one of the things that as empaths, we have the capacity to feel, and it's probably controlled our lives. I know it's controlled my life a lot, and still have the temptation, even though I have the understanding of it, because it's just such a strong feeling. And so here's what we're going to focus on today, is the idea that, you know, through our empathic abilities, we often pick up on other people's stuff, and it can feel very intuitive. It can feel almost like it has a magical quality to it. And because of that, it creates this feeling that we need to take action, like it was delivered to us in some way. But the truth is, it's just another sense that we have that we could sense it. And so we have an awareness of it. It didn't get delivered magically. God didn't come down and hand it to us and go, here's your mission, even though it may feel that way sometimes. And if we're going to contrast that by something we may hear, maybe somebody says something, maybe we overhear something, we used our physical ears in a very third dimensional way, we generally don't feel the same responsibility to act on it. Or if we see something, we see somebody acting in a certain way, or we see somebody, you know, doing something that we know that they want something from us, we still stay very discerning. We go, you know, like, you know, if we're only interacting that way, we have a sense of, oh, this is what they want. Do I want to give that to them? But when we feel it empathically, we tend to dissolve all of that and go, oh, there's a magical quality here. I need to do this. And I'll share a story about something that happened to me recently, but you know, I had my phone in my hand about ready to act, and I didn't. And you know, it's funny. Actually, I was with Nick, who we'll hear from in just a second. And when that happened, then he helped me kind of remind myself of this very nature thing. So I thought it was kind of a cool topic for us today to dive into. So yeah, welcome, Nick.
Cool. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was just hearing you talk, and I'm like, so it's not obligation, it's information.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
And
So like,
that's it, right?
yeah. So like,
just like something we hear or see.
or smell. So imagine this. Imagine you work in a downtown area, and there's this wonderful bakery, and every morning you walk by and you can smell the delicious treats. It's information. You're not obligated to go there and buy a croissant or whatever it may be every day of the week. That's not going to work out very quickly.
Right.
And so
yeah, it'll work out for the bakery, but not for you. Right. And so the thing that's giving you the invitation, that wants to offer something to you, if you're always, you know, taking their perspective versus your own, it works out well for them.
Right.
Ultimately, often not for you.
Yeah.
Great analogy. That's funny. I like that. Something we can definitely all relate to. And so, yeah, let me share the experience too, at least just the overview of it. So there was a interaction I had with somebody who I've been pretty good friends with, that they kind of dropped the ball, right? Or they really dropped the ball. And it put me in a situation where, you know, it affected a lot of stuff for me, and really kind of offset, you know, what I've been working on. And really it just turned into a huge pain in my butt. And, you know, obviously they felt bad about it, but they did it anyways. And so, you know, I've been kind of processing that. And then Nick and I were actually hanging out. We were getting ready to go somewhere. And I felt this feeling of like this dread, like it just hit me, like, you know, like almost like when somebody's kind of like hysterically crying, like there's something really, really wrong. And I was out of town, right? I was in Westlake in California, Westlake Village. And so I was like, oh shit, what's going on? Like there's something like serious happening. And so I, you know, tapped into my daughters at first, and I was like, oh, it's not them. And then I, you know, kind of scanned all the important people in my life, and I'm like, oh, and then when I got to the person who, had just taken this action that, created a real disruption in my life, um, it was them. And I could, my feeling, I'm like, and I started to pick up my phone, like, oh, I should text them and make sure they're okay. And then I realized very quickly, I'm like, wow, you know what? Like, and it was funny, Nick and I were chatting about it too. I can't remember quite how that went down, but the idea of having this reference point to go and talk about this very thing. Like, here's an invitation, like somebody that's trying to draw you into their drama, who kind of wants to be let off the hook for their behavior. And so they're kind of directing this energetics, and it feels like magic, like out of nowhere I can feel this. There's something wrong. I'm feeling it in my own body. There must be this urgency. I need to go make sure they're okay. I need to help them resolve this. And then, through our conversation, we stopped and we're like, well, this is just information, exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, they're upset, they're feeling bad about themselves and about the way they acted, and they want me to know it and feel it, like they're directing that at me, so that I can come and tell them it's okay. And my thought was, well, it's not okay, and it's also not my job to resolve this for them. And so I just blocked out their energy and continued with my day. And maybe 20 minutes later, I felt another wave of it try to come back in. Same kind of thing. I just blocked it out and continued with my day and didn't make it my problem. Like, the old me would have texted immediately, gone, oh my God, everything okay? I can feel something like blowing, and getting involved in something that, was already a pain in my butt. And then I would have become a bigger pain in my butt. So it was really a fascinating experience. And I could just see how useful that is for those of us that are empathic, that have that gift. And, even if you don't feel like you could track, like, was it this person or this person, that experience of, I can feel something happening, this invitation to get embedded in somebody else's drama, or somebody else wanting you to share their responsibility in it, or let them off the hook, or tell them it's okay, or whatever it is. It's a very common empathic experience.
Yeah, it's an imitation if you want it, or it's just information. You know, have you
Yeah.
ever- it seems like a really good idea just to continue to equate it to um, sight, smell,
Mhm.
hearing, right? I mean, the news. Are you obligated to walk by the TV all the time and stop and watch the
Mhm.
news for 30 minutes?
Mhm.
You're not going to feel good coming out of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and
eh,
it could have just as easily been, and just as clear for me personally, a text message that
yeah,
was like, "I'm really having a tough time. I'm really
right,
suffering in
right.
this," and I could have ignored. Like, then I would have gone like, well, I'd imagine so, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
don't feel a need to respond to the text message,
yeah,
um, but because of the magical type quality to it,
right.
I think we tend to overvalue what we're picking up as
Totally.
an urgent need for us to get involved, versus it just being communication, just being information.
Yeah, yeah. And then once you're involved, like you're involved now, you're playing a role now in this story.
Yep, yep.
And did you make things better, worse? You certainly got involved.
Yeah, and
Um,
then your energy's entangled in it too.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that ability to just, just like if somebody said something to you and you go, do I want to involve myself in this, or do I just walk away? Or do I, have a quick interaction and then leave? But because of the depth of the information with empathy, or true empathy, being empathic, um, like, instantly it feels personal, instantly we feel involved, and we
yeah,
need to be able to recognize that's just the sensation and it's not the truth.
yeah. So okay, so can we dive into this a little bit more? Because so the information is going to come up regardless.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
if my default is always to act,
Yep.
the the opposite, don't act, may not be right all the time either.
Right,
So
right. Yeah,
there's
that's
the
the whole piece
discernment
of
piece.
yeah, solving the problem with the opposite problem, right? If the
Right,
problem is me acting, so I just don't act, right? And
right.
so, like, those are the bookends that we've talked a lot about here before, in that human nature to say if we feel like, this is what I don't want to do, then we often think the solution is the opposite of it. But those are usually the range in which we could behave, and the answer is almost always somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
right?
So is there a best higher purpose consideration here? Is there a um understanding how you contribute situation here? What are some of the guidelines folks can use to
Yeah, yeah,
discern it?
yeah.
Do I get
Yeah.
involved?
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I mean, this opens up a wider conversation too, because if we're treating this like it was a text message or a voice
Mm,
message that was left for us, an email, or
hmm.
something somebody says to us, and now we're standing there. like, what is our system for discerning how we're going to engage with that? And
Mm-hmm.
particularly as empaths, we may go, oh, I read the text message, I tapped right into feeling their sadness or their upsetness or their happiness, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden, again, we're embedded in it again, and it feels just as personal. And so this conversation we're having is actually at a higher, at a wider breadth, because it's about any communication. And so if we're going to say, well, treat it like a text, treat it like an email, treat it like a voice message, great. Now check in with ourselves. What is it that I've done in the past? Have I tapped right in and gone like, oh, I can feel what's going on for them. I need to dive in with them and make this my problem too. And so that conversation, I guess it brings us right to the aligned living work of how do I hold my sovereignty? How do I hold my own alignment? And then engage with this from a place of, am I really being of service? And I think the moment that we get entangled in somebody else's drama with them, particularly acknowledging it, helping them kind of grip deeper onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is all about the specific situation, but as empaths, we often help stabilize the what's wrong by getting involved in it rather than, holding a clear higher vision in a place of loving compassion that isn't us drawn into the emotions that the other person's feeling, but that's actually bringing this stabilized place that helps them work through it and work their way out of it. And that's, it's interesting. We're thinking about this even from a spiritual perspective. Like when we think about, a religious perspective, well, let me use Christianity, for example. Like so many people call on Jesus a lot, right? And so, you say, well, I'm not a Christian, but people call on Christ consciousness. People call on an energetic that says, I want this loving, comforting energy that's going to make me feel like everything's okay and is going to help me through this. When that
Mm-hmm.
energy shows up for us, there's no part of that energy connected with Jesus, if that's how you see it, as that makes us feel like, oh, I feel so much better being here in this place. Like it doesn't make it more comfortable to be in our shitty situation or in our shitty place. It helps us feel uplifted so we work our way out of it. It helps us feel uplifted so that we have hope, so that we can hold a higher perspective and hold higher possibilities. And so, this conversation just went from very simple to very complicated, but when we look at how we're showing up, can we stabilize ourselves in that higher place, which is what the aligned living work is about, so that when we do engage with people that are stuck inside a story, because that's really what it is, right? We've all been there. Something happened. We have a temporary feeling where we feel like, we lose our sense of the big picture. We lose our sense of hope. We lose our sense of how to navigate it. Everything feels like it's wrong and not okay. But when we have somebody else that's there with us or another energy that's there with us that helps us stay in the bigger picture, we're able to navigate it in a beautiful way. And so I think that one of those first things we can ask ourselves is, am I getting drawn into the small thinking? Am I entering their little cave of there's something so wrong here, or I'm a victim, or I'm upset, or are we actually holding on to the bigger vision that helps the person work through it? And that level of support, I mean, as an empath, it's a very tricky thing to navigate. And again, that's where the aligned living work changed my whole experience with it, is I realized that when I hold my own alignment, it helps people immensely to work through and to stay in the bigger picture, not to get caught up in the narrative that everything's wrong and that their world's falling apart when they're having a negative experience, which is, we all know that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So there could be a calling for help, for service from that perspective. Next right action, shall we say?
Yeah.
Right. Or if that is not true, if that doesn't resonate, then and you don't do it out of alignment, don't do it out of service, you're in some cases, I think this is true, certainly. I don't know if all of them, but you're sort of being an enabler in some
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
helping the other person by taking their problem on.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, this person was feeling bad about their actions,
Yeah.
and the other people involved weren't going to let them off the hook.
Right.
And so as empaths, we're often the person that gets looked to be the one that's going to let somebody off the hook, or to tell them it's okay, to let them know that that we're not upset when we are,
It
you
feels very
know.
scapegoaty too.
It's very scapegoaty. And I mean, think about this in our own lives, right? When we want compassion for something we've done or understanding, whether it's, like we often look for the people that feel the most flexible. The people that feel the most willing to go, yeah, well, it was pretty shitty, but I get it. I understand. And, like, I know you're a good person, like, what, whatever it is that they want to hear so that they can feel good about themselves rather than working through their own actions and behavior and setting an intention for themselves about how they want to proceed forward, helping them to reflect on what works in their life and what doesn't. Like enabling, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we're, as empaths, we're often the go-tos for that because we tend to be so compassionate.
Yeah.
Even when somebody's done something shitty to us, somehow we still find the compassion for them to make them feel okay about it, which
Yeah.
doesn't help them.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, years ago, I remember going out to get lunch with you and with a mutual friend, and you said something. I'm like, man, I don't want to think that way because I like to punish myself. Um, you're like, I like to think about how I'm going to feel after I eat something. And I'm like, but I don't mind eating way too much ice cream and feeling terrible later. I mean, I do, but like I really enjoy eating it in the
Yeah.
moment. And you're
Yeah.
right. I feel like garbage afterwards. And that's just one random example.
Right. Right.
Um, but I think that modeling, that framework holds true here. If I were to ask, how am I going to feel about things later
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
an hour, in a day, in a week,
Yeah. Yeah.
what is that going to do for me? And it's not from a place of selfish, what am I getting out of this type of thing, but really like what's the point of it? What's the actual good that's going to come out of it?
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. And I mean, I think the whole point of this particular episode and this conversation is to invite people to question that impulsive feeling they feel, to jump right in and take on whatever it is that is going on.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, going, oh, okay, well, here's the invitation, you
Mm,
know,
mm-hmm.
how's this going to work out? Let me look at it from a bigger perspective. And even like, I've been doing this for years. When I could feel that level of desperate, like it felt like the person was like hysterically crying, it was like
Yeah.
this trauma cry. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, there is something so wrong. And I felt it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like every part of me wanted to jump into action to help that person.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, oh, like this is like there's some level of manipulation actually happening here.
Totally. I was just thinking
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And and then, through stopping, not not hitting the button that my finger was over the top of to send a text message, but to stop and talk with you for a minute about it and go, well, shit. Yeah, this is exactly what's going on. I'm just gonna step back. Like I'm gonna let them process this so they can resolve it. Like I feel like I'm actually helping them by not letting them off the hook. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Let's equate this to like your working environment for folks who
yeah.
work with folks.
Mhm.
Like here's I have a friend who's currently going through something,
This person
and
I know. Yeah.
maybe um and this individual is highly empathetic,
Yeah.
empath, and here's the situation that shows up. There's someone at a higher level
Mhm.
who doesn't want to get into the muck, but
Yeah.
wants a
Yeah.
certain result.
Right.
And so they may have had a conversation or two and they didn't get what they wanted. So they recruit the empath and make them a soldier, and the
Yeah.
soldier's like, yes, because not only am I empathetic, but this is my cause. This is why
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
here.
And now I feel like an attachment to it. Like this is mine. It's personal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this individual just empowered me
Yeah.
to go do this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, this individual is doing it because they didn't want to cause a problem.
Yeah. They didn't want to be the mess maker or the
They,
one who gets blamed for it. Yeah.
right. They're more than willing to send you to the front line. We know what happens when you send someone to the front line, and
Yeah.
they're just in the background doing their thing, waiting to hear the report.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Keeping their hands clean.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty amazing. And as we're talking about this, right, you may be going like, oh shit, like I can see this happening in my life and it doesn't feel good. Right. And here's the thing, like nobody's to blame. It's just the dynamics. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, these are the dynamics. Now I'm armed with that and I can choose differently. Or we can go like, oh, well, that shithead, like I see what they're doing now,
Yeah.
like, or do we just go, well, of course they're doing that. Like that is how humans operate. Right. And then, it's how empaths are often taken advantage of or utilized, you might say, in a less victim-y way. So do we go, well, shit, like, what if, like, now I can see how this gift, has a potential cost. I can see how I can get set up so many ways with it. And so if I can honor that now, it gives me a way to use my gift in a so much more empowered way, because empaths getting stuck in other people's shit, dropping their own agenda, it's something that's really
Yeah.
important to them that we're working on. It's like, how many times have you done that? Like, I know myself, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited about doing this. Oh, somebody has a problem that feels more urgent. I have to solve that.
Yes.
And probably
Right.
now I'm so sideways, I can't even work on what I wanted to work on because I just absorbed all of their sideways stuff. So I might as well just go put all my energy into that. And I just got hijacked, as opposed
Yes.
to having these clear boundaries. And here's the thing is that, of course, we don't have the clear boundaries because we don't have the tools. And so,
Mm.
Even if you're, I said, we always talk about, there's a lot of free tools. Of course, you can work with us with a group program or, with the one-to-one stuff, but there's also free intros that would give you the basic tools to go, oh, now I can see how I can choose between, the idea of being drawn into their stuff versus holding my own alignment. And before, I didn't have that option.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't a
so
choice.
it wasn't a
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. And so, like, I can't get upset with myself because, that was just how my operating system worked. And so when I can restructure my operating system to give myself that choice, damn, like, shit really changes fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And people react differently to you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Then they know that you're not the person to tap on to go sacrifice yourself.
Right.
And that, it's funny, like, I don't get asked that much anymore. Whereas before, I was the go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're looking for somebody who's willing to sacrifice themselves and go into this emotional mess and take that on as if it's their own, when it's actually the other person's problem, but they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Are you willing? Like, I'm already
Yeah.
in it.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
I mean, I remember being put into this situation from when I was at work once, and I came back to report. I was the soldier who went to the front line, and I went
Yeah.
back to
Good
report.
job. Did you get a medal?
No, here's what I got. I got clarity. I got kicked right in the pants. I, I did.
I assume a
And
specific place in the pants.
yeah, right in the yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and uh, and the response after I gave my report was, yeah, I sort of set you up for failure. And I was like, I am I'm shocked that one, you knew that going to send me to the front.
Yeah.
How naive
Yeah.
am I? And also, more importantly, holy shit, did you just say that out loud? Like,
Did you mean to say that?
ah. And that was very informative, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't get it any more clearer than that. But sometimes we don't get it. It's not as clear. People hold that manipulation tight because they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what's the next mission?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. And so as you're walking away today, I really encourage you to reflect on that, to go, I feel that impulsiveness. I can feel what it feels like when somebody presents me with some emotional thing going on for them. I feel it in my body. It becomes mine just as much as it is theirs. And I get drawn into it and I take it on like it's my own. And I take, in most cases, more responsibility for their stuff than they're willing to take for themselves. And what that generally creates is we help them solve it. We walk away. And as we're walking away, they're back creating the same mess somewhere else. It's funny. I had I was working with a client the other day about something similar. I said, it's like you're helping this person clean up and you're like, okay, you need a fresh start. And so you drive them to the city, like 100 miles away, and you get them all established there. And then you get in your car and you leave them there all set up for success. And as you're turning your car, you're watching them walk to the bus station to get on the bus to go back to where you just took them from. It's like, you're like, like, do you realize how much I just put into you? They're like, yeah, my rubber band, it's hooked to back there. I'm just going to go back there no matter how much energy you put in. I'm just going to go recreate it. But yeah, thank you for your effort. I feel loved. I feel supported. And I'm going to go create that same mess again. Great visual, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for folks who are in this on this hamster wheel and they're going, man, I would like to get off this hamster wheel.
Yeah.
What do we have for them, David? What's available? They can
Yeah.
step
So
into
there's the
today?
intro to Aligned Living. It's like a quick video class. I think it's 3 videos that takes you through the basics of this. There's also, we have a intro to my book, Insight, Influence, and Flow, where I read 3 of the chapters and I discuss it and give the background for it that helps us understand our energetic system. That's available there. We'll put links to all these in the show notes.
Cool.
Of course, like if you want, one of the things I started offering is doing a single session with people, and so that they can sign up. At the time of this recording and airing, it's available. But it's kind of a discounted rate, so they can come in and do 1 90-minute session with me and help frame up, deeper understanding of them. And then that can lead into a 10-week group program or a 10-week one-to-one program if you're looking to be more committed. But the idea is that, like, we made a lot of this stuff free, so that, like, we don't want there to be a financial barrier to you having these tools. If you want the deeper support, obviously that's available as well. But if you're unsure, you can start with a single 90-minute session, or you can even just start with diving in with the free video class.
Yeah. And the most important thing is start working on that muscle. It's a new workout. Start working on it.
Yeah. Because it's not going to happen if you don't. Like, there's nothing intuitive about making that jump. Everything that's intuitive about it and natural about it is you getting re-embedded in other people's problems.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Great conversation. And thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks, folks.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.